our stupid show usually starts with us singing our anthem, right, Emily?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is going to be a good way to open, because what's not going to be included is the reason that you started off saying our stupid show. It's just going to look like you hate this.
I hate this show. Why do we have to do this?
How do we start this stupid crap?
We'll do it live.
Oh.
Welcome to Butter No Parsnips. Every week on Butter No Parsnips, your hosts Emily Moyers and Kyle Imperatore take you on an adventure through the weird, wacky, wonderful, and sometimes even wicked world of one wayside word. Strange characters, delightful bits, and general joyousness abound. Join them as they test each other's etymological expertise.
I guess we're going to skip the anthem today. Emily, welcome to Butter No Parsnips. I'm Kyle, you're Emily.
You're right. You are Kyle and I am Emily, and this is our stupid show, Butter
This
No
is our
Parsnips.
stupid show.
But Kyle, I have a fantastic, not stupid word this week.
So excited. I'm brimming with energy. If you peeked in my room right now, you'd have to shield your eyes because I'm white hot.
Yeah.
It's probably radioactive.
Yeah, there's been calls to the police already.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So your word this week, Kyle, and listen, you and I have talked about doing words that the other person probably knows. Last week, you did a word that I mostly knew.
Yeah.
But we're just going to jump that shark because there's still lots to talk about. So your word this week is High-muck-a-muck. HIGH-MUCK-A-MUCK.
I'm sorry. Am I supposed to know this word? I mean, I definitely know it, right?
Cut out everything I just said.
High-muck-a-muck?
High-muck-a-muck.
With all hyphens?
I mean, it can be spelled different ways.
Oh, God.
Sometimes it's high space muck-a-muck.
I mean, I assume that this is a board game in the Pokemon world where you have to stack mucks.
Yeah, it's High-muck-a-muck.
Muck-a-muck. Highest muck wins.
Yeah. Kyle, I have a hint for you if you would like it.
I mean, how do you know that I don't just know it? Am I not giving off confidence vibes?
I thought you would just know it, but you've made it clear.
Yeah, I know. I've never heard of it. What's the hint?
Well, another sort of iteration of this phrase that might be more common is muckety-muck.
Gulp. Yeah, that helps. I definitely know it now. Audience, you're with me, right? We all know this word. Is this like a brouhaha? Is this like a to-do?
It's not. Let me remind you, Kyle, about a lyric from a motion picture turned Broadway musical that both of us have equal and uncontentious feelings about, Newsies.
Oh, gosh.
In the song King of New York, there's a line that goes, "Nubbin with all the muckety-mucks, I'm blowing my dough and going deluxe."
See, the benefit of having to direct a musical is you don't have to know every lyric.
So funny.
Okay, so a person is a muck-a-muck, a high-muck-a-muck.
A high-muck-a-muck.
Are there like tiers here? Like, can some is
a
this
low muck-a-muck?
Yeah, they're low muck-a-mucks.
There's not
mid-level muck-a-mucks.
There's not, and we'll talk about why later.
Like bureaucratic level muck-a-mucks. But does this refer to a person?
It does refer to a person.
I assume this is a more modern word and it's like slang.
It is sort of slang. Well, I don't know. How do we define slang?
Well, if we're going to go back to how John B. defined slang, I think it was just like anything that the common people used. No, I think a high-muck-a-muck is, based on you singing Newsies, I think a high-muck-a-muck is like...
Well, think about the kind of person that he might be singing about in King of New York.
Yeah, I think a high-muck-a-muck...
With all the muckety-mucks.
With all the muckety-mucks, I think a high-muck-a-muck is... like a hoity-toity person.
Yeah, literally, you got it.
Oh, thank God.
You could wring out the amount of sweat coming off Kyle right now.
Just, wow. It's just, I'm going to burst like a blueberry.
Yeah, Kyle, a High-muck-a-muck is an important, influential, or high-ranking person, especially one who is pompous or conceited.
Wow, I love this.
Like a bigwig,
I've never heard of it.
Wow. I feel like I've heard it just thrown around. It's a...
Emily, do you live in the 1910s?
I do. I do. I live in 1899.
Me and the boys always throw it around on our route.
So, Kyle, it comes from Chinook jargon.
No.
Yeah.
That's wild.
And that is not jargon meaning specialized words used in a certain field. That is a more archaic usage of jargon, meaning a hybrid language. So Chinook jargon, at least when it originated, was what is called a pidgin language. Pidgin. And a pidgin language is basically when two or more groups of people are interacting, usually for trade, but they don't have a common language between them. They just naturally develop a language that is like, the vocabulary is like a merging of their isolated languages, but it is grammatically simplified in every way.
That's real. I've definitely heard this term before. I'm trying to remember like which language it's used for that I can relate it to. But I mean, what a fascinating thing to exist.
Yeah,
you know?
It is super fascinating. I was looking at like the list of sort of qualities of a pidgin language. They usually don't have any like hard to pronounce sounds or tones, no complicated sentence structures with multiple clauses in a sentence. There's usually no separation of like parts of speech. So like this word is normally a noun, but I'm going to use it as a verb and you can basically get what I mean. So we can just have one word.
It's really interesting.
There would be like no verb conjugations either. There would be like, here's this verb and you could use it with any subject and there's going to be a separate word to say what tense it is. So you don't have to conjugate it for tense.
But that's not like constructed like that on purpose. It's just that's how it happens to be.
Yeah. The languages are simple because they form out of a very immediate need.
Right. Of like, we need to communicate and we don't have any understanding of each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fascinating.
It is super fascinating. And oftentimes, if those groups of people continue to interact and intermingle, the pidgin will develop more rules and structure, and they'll be able to communicate more complicated ideas. And then there might be a generation who grow up speaking this language as their native language. And at that point, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, are there pidgin languages that are like spoken today, like widespread?
Yeah, I mean, so at a certain point, they become what's called a Creole language, which is like a hybrid language that has formed a consistent grammar system and a larger vocabulary and like a body of native speakers.
Creole is literally what I was thinking of. So
Creole, it's sort of like you can say Creole to mean that specific one in the like New Orleans area, but a Creole, lowercase c, can mean any kind of hybrid language.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Okay. Wait, did that come from Creole the language or was it vice versa?
So the word Creole comes from the French Creole, so I would assume it is that region first.
Sure. And then like languages like that were like named after Creole.
That is my assumption. But to bring it back to Chinook jargon began as a pidgin trade language. Kyle, do you want to try to guess what area of North America this language was and is spoken?
Chinook. I'm going to guess why not? Northeastern United States.
You started off good.
Okay, just northwestern.
Northwestern, yes. It was,
that's what I meant.
Yeah, it started in like the Pacific Northwest area. It was a merging of Chinookan languages, which came from the like Washington, Oregon area, and Wakashan languages, which came from the coastal British Columbia and the islands kind of there, like just north of Washington state. And then there's some English and French in there as well from the European settlers.
What time was like around this being developed?
So we're not 100% sure when, because there's some debate amongst historians over whether it was a pre or post contact language, because it might have formed just as a blending of indigenous languages before European contact, and then the English and French came later, or it might have happened after European contact and like European traders were part of the catalyst of the language forming.
So is the Chinook word High-muck-a-muck?
Well, we're going to get into the details, but
okay.
It comes from Chinook jargon. So we don't know exactly when it formed, but we do know that during the 1800s, the language spread from like the Washington, Oregon area out through British Columbia, the Yukon, Alaska, Northern California, Idaho, Montana. And in certain areas, it did become like a stable Creole language. And today, according to the 2010 U.S. Census, Chinook jargon has around 650 native speakers, primarily in an area called Grand Ronde, Oregon.
That's really wonderful.
It
I love
is.
that it's still being spoken.
Yeah, it like diminished for a while, but never fully died. And there have been efforts in Grand Ronde to revitalize it. I think they put out a dictionary a few years ago, maybe 2012.
Oh, I want a Chinook dictionary.
It would be fun. And actually in that area, it's not typically referred to as Chinook jargon, but Chinook Wawa. And we're pretty sure that during the 1800s, it was actually just called the Wawa, which meant language or speech or words.
Is that where we get the gas station from?
No, I looked into it. That
So
comes
funny.
from a different indigenous word, Wawa, from a different indigenous language.
Wow.
Yeah. Because I was thinking the
Wow.
same thing.
I love that.
Yeah, that comes from an indigenous language in the Pennsylvania area.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Exhilarating.
Yes.
We're trying to weed interesting out of our
I
vocabulary.
know it's been pointed
but it's
out to
so
us how
hard.
often we say interesting and how it's basically a meaningless word.
But it gives us the opportunity to make other words meaningless, you know?
That's right. We're going to expand our overusage of certain words.
Yeah.
So, Kyle, a moment ago, you asked me if High-muck-a-muck is the word in Chinook jargon. And the answer is
Yes.
no.
Okay.
The high part of that is actually either a mishearing of the original phrase or like intentionally conforming it to English.
Gotcha.
Because the phrase in Chinook jargon is actually High-muck-a-muck, Hiyu. Also found it spelled Hayu or Hayo or Hyiu, which is from an 1881 dictionary of Chinook jargon.
Hiyu. Oh, interesting.
Hugh. Yeah.
Hugh.
Hugh. The language that Hayu is borrowed from is either called Nucha Nulth or Nutka. I know I'm butchering that. I'm very sorry.
No,
and it means plenty. And muck-a-muck is also borrowed from a Nutka word mahomuk, which meant whale meat, but in Chinook jargon, muck-a-muck meant food or to eat. So Hiyu-muck-a-muck literally means plenty of food or plenty to eat.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. It's likely that it, in its original context, was used derisively, like the way we use it in English. There was a tradition, or is a tradition, called a potlatch, practiced by indigenous tribes in that area.
Mm-hmm.
And it is like a day of feasting and gift giving. And I think there are a few aspects of like the significance of it, but the relevant one here is that people of wealth and power would come and give away food and valuables as a way of like demonstrating how wealthy and powerful they were.
Sure. Like as like a hey.
Yeah.
Look what I got.
Yeah. So they were typically held by a rich person or a chieftain who would invite other rich people as like a challenge. Like,
oh my gosh.
Try and top me. I bet you can't.
Anything you can do, I can do better.
Truly. I also read that it was a way that a family who was like in disgrace could regain respect, which is super interesting.
Through a potlatch?
Yeah, like if your family had like, I don't know, committed some horrible social faux pas, then you could gather all your wealth and hold a potlatch and everybody would be like, oh, all right, he's still in the game.
Right after Labor Day? You're gonna have to make a mean smoked ribs to make up for that.
Bring it to the potlatch. So the context of this word is, you know, somebody would roll up to the potlatch with like 1,000 pounds of whale meat, and then everybody at the back of the room would be like, "Well, look at Mr. Plenty of Food over here."
Yeah, Mr. Hiyu-muck-a-muck.
Hiyu-muck-a-muck walking in. Potlatches do still happen. They were banned in Canada for a little bit because the colonials were like, we don't want you practicing your traditions.
Racism,
we want you to
I'm
assimilate
sure,
to ours.
Mm-hmm.
But potlatch still happened like in secret, and then they were made legal again in the 1950s. But also in that area, in like the Pacific Northwest area, sometimes people will call potlucks potlatches.
Oh, does potluck come from potlatch?
Nope, different word.
Wow, that's really interesting because they seem to be very similar in motive.
In motive.
Maybe not motive, in motive.
I like the idea of hosting a party with motive.
I mean, aren't all of your parties murder mystery parties in the sense that there's going to be a murder that is premeditated and that will be the mystery?
Yes. Yes, but also I'm going to give a feast to prove how powerful I am.
How powerful I am, that I would feed even the man I'm going to murder.
That's right. That's right. But yeah, it seems super interesting. It said like they would give away their valuables or just destroy them, which I was like, oh, that seems like dramatic.
Hey, I'm so rich, I don't even need this.
Yeah, here's how much I don't need this cache of wheat. I'm just going to burn it.
I mean, listen, I don't know if that's good or bad, but more power to you.
Yeah, well, and it does seem like that would spur a word like High-muck-a-muck.
High-muck-a-muck, yeah.
Yeah. So this word, High-muck-a-muck, was used in this series that Mark Twain put out, I think in a magazine or a newspaper called Letters from Hawaii. And I think, near as I can tell, it's about like it's like a travel journal of his, basically, of his trips to Hawaii. Because there didn't seem to be any signs that this was like fiction.
God, Emily, imagine Mark Twain vacationing in Hawaii.
I mean, I don't have to, Kyle. I read about it.
But I'm just like the picture of it,
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
So this particular scene that I read is called Scenes from Honolulu.
That was one of the games in Whose Line Is It Anyway, right?
Scenes from Honolulu. He's writing about how he's on the island of Oahu and Molokai. And he's with this man, Mr. Brown, who does not enjoy being in Hawaii.
So funny.
Mark Twain is like really here to like take in the sights, absorb the culture, learn what he can. And Mr. Brown is just like hating every bit of it.
Mark, I think, you know what? I left something really important at home. It's my medicine. It's life-saving. Let's go.
But Mr. Brown is also constantly mispronouncing indigenous words in this area. He keeps pronouncing Oahu as Wahoo. Wahoo. And he keeps calling centipedes santipedes. Santi.
Oh.
So what I'm about to read to you is a quote from this man Brown.
Love it.
I think he's reading over Mark Twain's shoulder, and Mark Twain is writing about something about how it's hot, and Mr. Brown reads over his shoulder and cuts in, "Yes, and hot. Oh, I reckon not. Only 82 in the shade. Go on now and put it all down now that you've begun. Just say, and more centipedes and cockroaches and fleas and lizards and red ants and scorpions and spiders and mosquitoes and missionaries. Oh, blame my cats if I'd live here 2 months. Not if I was High-muck-a-muck and king of Wahoo and had a harem full of hyenas." And then Mark Twain explains that hyenas are his mispronunciation of actually a Maori word that is used in Hawaii, wahine, which means women.
So funny.
He tries to correct Mr. Brown on this, and Mr. Brown says, "It ain't any odds. It describes some of them anyway."
Emily, forget about Tom Sawyer. Put away Huckleberry Finn. This sounds like a freaking sitcom that we could have. Starring Mark Twain and Mr. Brown. God, this sounds so funny. Like a buddy cop movie. What?
If I was High King of Wahoo.
Just love
High-muck-a-muck.
I think you mean hyenas. I know what I mean.
And literally, High-muck-a-muck is written HIGH-YOU-muck-a-muck.
Oh my God. High-muck-a-muck.
High-muck-a-muck and King of Wahoo.
Oh God. And I love that Mark Twain was like, I need to put down exactly how ridiculous this guy was. Was he friends with this guy?
I think he was just sort of stuck there with him. Like maybe like all the out-of-towners were hanging out together.
I guess. Yeah. Oh God, I love that. I mean, I love that as like a Mark Twain goes to Hawaii, like kind of like a Griswold's Family Vacation movie where nothing goes as planned, you know?
Yeah.
This is a really good word and really novel etymologically speaking.
Yeah, I thought it was super interesting that it was like that like hybrid language.
Yeah.
And now, Kyle, do you want to try and prove yourself a high-muck-a-muck by using this word in a sentence, but hopefully better than Mr. Brown did?
Better. Well, we'll see. Okay, all right. Okay, give me 10 seconds to think.
Yeah.
High-muck-a-muck in a sentence.
Yeah, you got it. I believe in you.
It's used as a noun, right? Like to relate to a person?
Yeah, you would call someone a high-muck-a-muck. Or a mucky-muck, I saw as well.
Or a mucky-muck. Mucky-muck. Okay, so at the office the other day, Cynthia was... Cynthia was talking about how great she was for having 2 staplers instead of 1. And my coworker turned to me and said, "What a high muckety-muck this girl is, huh?"
That's pretty good. That's accurate. That is the usage. I think this word Kyle is so tickled by his own sentence.
What a bad sentence. Imagine that being in a dictionary. It's like a whole paragraph.
Yeah, don't they put a whole situation for the example sentence? They do. They put in like a word problem in a math textbook.
Yeah, it's 2004. You're at a marathon. Your brother is sick. You couldn't make it. He's the whole reason you showed up. But now you got to run this marathon. You know what to do. And Jen walks up to you. Jen is a girl you met at a coffee shop. Why is she here? And Jen says, "Hey, do you want to go mucking around?"
I mean, you've lost it. Your first one was correct.
And then I had to correct Jen and say, actually.
Okay,
good.
Kyle, let's play a game right now.
Let's play a game.
Let's get out of here. So Kyle, Chinook jargon only has a few pockets of native speakers today. However, there are a lot of like individual words and phrases that have been adopted by English speakers in the Pacific Northwest area.
Okay.
And with that in mind, today's game is called Local Lingo.
Oh.
I'm going to give you a word or phrase borrowed from Chinook jargon and used in English. I'm going to give you 3 possible meanings, and you're going to try to guess the right one.
Okie doke.
So your first one, this is, I think, from what I could tell, like the most well-used and the most versatile of these words.
Mm-hmm.
It is skookum, S-K-O-O-K-U-M. Does it mean A, strong, solid, and reliable, B, sideways or a squint, or C, wild and untamed?
I mean, there's no way it means a squint, right?
It would
impossible.
be a crazy coincidence.
It would be a crazy coincidence. Sturdy, a squint, and the third one was?
Wild and untamed.
I'm going to go with that one.
Incorrect.
Oh.
It means strong, solid, and reliable. And it can refer to people as being like, he's a solid guy, or objects. Like a building can be skookum, or if you've jerry-rigged something, you're like, no, that's skookum. That's good. That's going to hold.
This is a word that's translated into English? That's...
it's used
migrated
in
into English. That's really interesting.
But
Skookum.
like these words are like really only used in that like Washington, Oregon, British Columbia area.
Sure.
Very much local slang. And skookum can also be used to ask for affirmation. Like, is that skookum with you? Meaning like, is that good? Which I think is super fun, and we should all start saying that.
We absolutely should.
Yeah.
Move over, Yiddish.
Make Chinook
is the new Yiddish. Yeah.
All right, Kyle. Your next word is chuck. C-H-U-C-K. Does it mean A, wood shavings, B, water, or C, foodstuffs?
This is a trick question.
It's a tricky.
Because there's that whole thing with woodchucks.
Yeah.
Does this have anything to do with chuck woolery?
Chuck woolery?
Oh, silly, Emily. We won't get into chuck woolery today.
Okay.
I'm going to go with warder.
You're right. It does mean water.
Huh. Is the meaning in woodchuck come from that?
No, because woodchuck comes from Algonquin.
Okay, I'll take it.
But yeah, chuck means water. Salt chuck means salt water, and skookum chuck means river rapids.
Skookum chuck.
Skookum
Strong
chuck, like
water.
strong water. River
Love
rapids.
it.
Yeah. All right. Your next word is mossy. M-A-S-I. Does it
Mossy.
mean good morning, look out, or thank you?
Thank you.
You got it. What was your reasoning?
Yeah. I don't know. It just sound in my head, I said, all right, say these in each of those inflections. And it was like mossy. I was like, yeah, that sounds like a thankful one.
Well, you know what it sounds like is the French merci. And it is
Beaucoup.
an alternate pronunciation of that.
What?
It's literally it's loaned from the French merci, but the R sound is very rare in Chinook jargon, so it's often eliminated in French and English loanwords.
So
it's mossy.
wild.
Yep.
Wild and crazy.
Wild and crazy.
Love that. Mossy, Emily.
Oh yeah. This is your last word, Kyle.
Okay, yeah.
And it is quiggly. Quiggly.
Quiggly?
Quiggly. Does quiggly mean A, a small campsite, B, the remnants of a pit house, or C, an area of tricky terrain?
A campsite.
Nope.
Oh.
It is the remnants of a pit house, like a kind of half underground house dug into the dirt. It comes from a pre-existing word, kekuli, I think that's how you pronounce, which in Chinook jargon meant underground or beneath.
That is fascinating.
Isn't it? I love every word I've looked at from this language.
Yeah, really. I mean,
think it's
really
fantastic.
good words. Unique. Clearly, their influence on the English language is not as widespread as it should be.
Yeah, I feel like all these words have a good mouthfeel.
Yeah, good
Like
mouthfeel.
skookum is a really good word to say.
Skookum is so good.
Yeah.
And I love mossy, and I love quiggly. And you know what? Now my kids are going to be
Quickly?
Nutka and Quiggly.
Nutka and Quickly.
Nutka and Quiggly.
Amazing. What a beautiful homage.
What a beautiful homage. And I have you to, Mossy, Emily, I have you to thank for that.
Oh, you're very welcome.
And I've got our...
Kyle, you going to remind the people what they should
That's
do?
what I was going to do, yeah.
Yeah.
Remember the Butter
this.
No Parsnips of November. This isn't airing in November. It's probably December. Remember, you can find Butter No Parsnips on social media, on Facebook, and on Instagram at Butter No Parsnips Podcast. If you haven't already subscribed.
Uh-huh. And if you happen to like today's episode, and I hope you did, consider giving us a 5-star rating or a good review wherever you heard it.
And if you're a woodchuck that has chucked, then you'll have really liked today's episode. Please consider donating to our Patreon at patreon.com/butternoparsnips.
Yeah, donating $5 or more on there will get you a shout out either on social media or right here on the podcast. We might say your name.
We just might, and if we say it 3 times, we might summon you to be a guest on the
you
podcast.
up via the Lexiconicon.
You never know.
But a huge thanks to anyone who does donate. We love you for that.
Yeah. Mossy.
Mossy.
With that, I've been Kyle.
And I've been Emily.
And this has been
Butter
No
Parsnips.
Thank you for listening to Butter No Parsnips. Butter No Parsnips is produced by Seth Gliksman, Emily Moyers, and Kyle Imperatore. The theme music and additional music is by Kyle Imperatore. If you liked listening to this episode, subscribe and give us a good rating and or positive review wherever you heard it. If you really liked listening, consider donating to our Patreon at patreon.com/butternoparsnips. There you can get bonus content you can't get anywhere else, like the monthly Patreon exclusive podcast Buttered Parsnips. Your support means the world to us and encourages us to keep making more. Thanks in advance, and we'll be back next week.